Hello everyone and welcome to Skilled Reviews, the channel where I give you my personal opinions and rankings of the best anime for you to go and watch right now. For today's episode, I'm going to be talking about one of my top 5 animes of all time, Vinland Saga. Let's get right into it. For those of you who are already planning on watching Vinland Saga and you don't want any spoilers, just don't worry, rest easy. My review is just going to be a brief overview of the first 4 to 5 episodes with only mild spoilers that are merely for future contextual purposes. When I begin to speak on anything past the introduction and review, I'll be sure to tell you to click off of the video. Or watch the whole thing. That'd be cool too. Vinland Saga debuted in 2019 on Crunchyroll, Netflix, Hulu? Sadly no. Vinland Saga began its voyage into the graveyard of anime, Amazon Prime. But don't be discouraged. As of July of this year, Vinland is now available on Netflix, and thank goodness. This show is criminally underrated and slept on. It is animated by Wit Studios, who also brought to life seasons 1 through 3 of Attack on Titan, Ranking of Kings, The Ancient Magus Bride, and recently Spy Family. The show is 24 episodes, which means you could finish this show in 8 hours. Though to do that, you'd have to skip one of the most fire openings ever made. My sister literally blares it so loud at the gym that I can hear it through her AirPods. Vinland Saga primarily in the first 4 to 5 episodes focuses on a relationship between a father and his son. Thors and his 6-year-old son Thorfin, our protagonist. These episodes are primarily build-up, but they cast the tone for the entirety of the show. And while they may seem like a chore to some, these episodes carry incredible meaning going into the latter portion of the show. Themes like slavery versus freedom, nature versus nurture, and honor within Viking lore versus Christianity are all seemingly thrown at you, all while you have characters like Leif Erikson casually chilling with Thorfin in Iceland. These seemingly simple themes are beautifully portrayed in Vinland Saga from the very start, as we see Thors walking through a field, or at his discovery of an oncoming war between the Danes and England. But from Thorfinn's perspective, he has lived a life of peace and comfort. His views are very limited to his experiences, which so far seems to be regular farm life, as well as the occasional game of Vikings versus Vikings. It's obvious to the viewer that Thors wants to protect his son from the cruelties of this world, as he's quoted saying, "You don't have any enemies. No one has any enemies. There's no one who it's okay to hurt." You know, the most perfectly reasonable, not confusing thing to tell your son as you're on the cusp of an amazing war. During the 11th century, Danish forces began their assault on England, which holds much more meaning seeing as how this assault and the majority of the characters aren't tales of fiction. Nearly all of the main cast were real, or at least according to Norse folklore. I've heard some people that have watched Vinland say that Thorfin is one of the most one-dimensional characters ever made. Well, I would contest that he may be one of the most in-depth characters ever made. He questions what honor truly is and ponders eternity, as he's quoted saying, "I wonder if my mother and my sister will get into Valhalla." His character development seemingly shifts from the innocence his father has attempted to provide into something greater as he walks in on his father attempting to resuscitate a runaway slave in their home. For while his father, sister, and even mother treat it as an everyday occurrence, Thorfin seems frozen at the sight. From this point on, Thorfin's attitude is an attempt at his father's stoic figure. At every turn, it appears that this facade becomes more and more a part of him as he stumbles towards what he perceives as true honor. With the war against England looming, Thors is recruited by his old Viking buddies to re-enlist after deserting to escape to Iceland. Thorfin sees this as his chance to achieve the honor and chivalry he sees in his father, and sneaks onto his father's worship. Little does he know that his father's re-enlistment into the Danish army is a ruse meant to hide an assassination attempt. As Thorfin, his father Thors, and coincidentally Leif Erikson arrive at an island towards the beginning of their voyage, they are confronted by a group of mercenaries who are led by a man named Askeladd. This man is quite literally the reason to watch the show. He is the technical antagonist, but you can't help but be drawn to him. His charisma, charm, incredible IQ, and battle sense, all embodied with his obvious leadership, make him really hard to dislike. And a fun fact, for those of you who have seen Naruto or Naruto Shippuden, you may have heard of a character named Madara Uchiha. Yeah, it's the same voice actor. And I'd argue, as controversial as it may be, an even greater villain. When Thors and the crew encounter this group, it is made apparent that even if they defeat them, their village will be slain. So now, this is where the spoilers are, so if you want to skip to here, then you'll be good, but if not, you're going to get a little bit of spoilers. Upon discovering this, Thors offers up his life as a sacrifice for both his crew and for those he left behind in Iceland. A truly tragic but picturesque scene that isn't shocking to the viewer, But as you see Thorfin's eyes change, you know, the saga has begun. Now, somehow Leif Erikson doesn't take Thorfin back with him to Iceland, as Thorfin hides out in his father's old warship, which is now the property of Askeladd and his band of pirates. And as these pirates travel toward their next conquest for riches, Thorfin is left to ponder his father's life and what he meant when he said, quote, "A true warrior doesn't need a sword." This leads to one of the most dynamic rage scenes, showing yet another more drastic change in Thorfin's character. From then on, the focus of the entire show is Thorfin seeking to kill Askeladd for the murder of his father. Truthfully, I cannot give you enough reasons to watch this show. The brutality of it is truly beautiful, not because I love gore or anything, but because everything has a purpose. Every life taken in the show is not only a showcase of the era, but something more. The violence of the show as it pertains to the characters is all for their own gain, but the show seems to almost say, this may be normal, but that doesn't make it insignificant. Thorfin versus Askeladd is one of the greatest duos/rivalries I've ever seen. The different balance between desire and honor in each character cements this supporting cast into the S tier for me. Simple interactions between a priest and two Viking brothers seem to be playful, but the meaning behind each of their words perfectly sets up the backdrop for this story. What is true love? The priest seems to think that the love depicted in Sacrifice is what he's been searching for, but Thorfin doesn't even seem to comprehend what love is, if only a waste of time in his pursuit of honor. If you don't watch this show, you're truly missing out. If you've watched this far, thank you so much. If you would leave a comment and tell me something that you may prefer, or a different style on how I present things, or anything like that, I would very much appreciate it. Or if you like the show. If you like the show and you wanted to tell me, or if you hated the show and you want to tell me, that's great too, but I highly doubt it. You should definitely go and watch you should watch the show. Until next time, I'm Sam, and this has been Skilled Reviews. See ya.